the fire and everything could have moved up because it seems to be that there's smoke coming out higher floors on the building.
You say there appears to be something out. That would be the second aircraft?
Yes.
The one at the lower level?
Yes.
And what actually do you see?
There's an object that doesn't fit with the line of the building that seems to be protruding, and that's what's on fire.
We're getting a look at the building right now, and I must say the smoke seems to be obscuring our view enough so that we can't identify it. We're re-racking the tape right now. You see encircled there off on the right-hand side of your screen, this is the second plane. Obviously, the first plane has already collided with the top of the southernmost building, and now here comes the second plane. And you see making no moves to evade the second tower, and then crashing into the second one. Ms. Renault, let me ask you to sit tight. Mr. Davis, you too, for a second. I want to go to Washington, where White House correspondent Bill Plant is standing by. Bill, what are you hearing on your end?
Brian, we're hearing that the president will have a statement to make shortly. He is in Florida this morning. He was supposed to do an educational event with children to push his education bill. We understand that that event has been canceled. There was a senior staff meeting here this morning. Nobody seems quite to know exactly what's going on. The National Security Council said earlier that it had heard nothing unusual. This was after the first airplane impact. We will hear from the president, we think, very shortly, to hear what he has to say and see what, if anything, they know about this, which appears to be so deliberate.
Bill, I asked Jim this earlier, and again, I apologize if you're not in a position to shed any more light on it, but do you know whether or not officials there at the White House had been forewarned that there was an imminent attack or there was a heightened sense of alert? We're aware there had been for some time a heightened sense of alert throughout the Mideast, but I'm talking about domestically.
Well, we do know that there has been a heightened sense of alert. We do know that there have been a number of threats. There are always threats received. They have tended to take them recently a bit more seriously. But it does not appear, and I hesitate to make this for certain, but it does not appear that they had any advance warning that anything was going to happen today.
Again, this is all speculative, Bill, but are officials there working on the assumption that two planes crashing in the Twin Towers 18 minutes apart on a clear day, not an accident?
Hard to believe that they would think otherwise, but at the moment they seem just as mystified as we are. And as I said before, we do expect a statement from the president, who is down in Florida, sometime within the next few minutes.
All right, Bill, let me go back to Teresa Renault. Ms. Renault, I'm sorry I'd cut you off earlier, and I may again, by the way, if the president is ready to speak, but give us what you see from your vantage point again, if you would.
From the southeast building.
You're in Chelsea, correct?
Yes, I am. On the 14th floor, we have a 360-degree view. It's completely clear, straight shot. We have on the southeast building, on the north side, looks like the north corner, about the middle of the building. It is still very much in flames and smoke rising from that. I can't see as many flames coming out of the northwest building. Looks like, though, that the north side of the building and the west side of the northwest building have been opened up and still very much covered in smoke in the tops of the buildings.
And that the northwest side would be the building that absorbed the first impact,
That's
the higher of the two.
That's correct.
From our vantage point, it appears that the higher hole is a larger hole. Is that what you see?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I don't know if that's just a difference in perspective from where I am, because that is the closer building
Certainly
to me.
It's staggered. You're correct.
Yes.
But we had heard an earlier report, unconfirmed, that the first plane appeared to be a 737. The plane we saw,
yes,
absent any perspective, seemed to be a smaller plane.
I would say the explosion upon impact was much larger on the first hit than the second.
You heard both?
Yes, I saw the impact on the second building. I saw the explosion come from the building on the first one.
Mm-hmm. You're at Chelsea and 14th.
Yes. It's like a 16th and 8th Avenue.
Yeah, I'm sorry, on the 14th floor. I apologize.
Yes,
not on 14th. You're a considerable ways away. Any effort there to evacuate your building?
Not at this point. No.
Mr. Davis, tell us the mood where you are. We were talking to a gentleman earlier who was in a high-rise closer to the World Trade Center, and he was genuinely afraid, and understandably so.
Well, it is shocking. Very shocking to have witnessed. Perhaps we can be somewhat more sympathetic to what Israel is suffering at the moment.
But they have not moved people out of your building?
No.
You said you're at Rockefeller Center, that security actions have been put into place. What do those entail?
I really do not know, but we have not been told to evacuate.
All right. Jim Stewart, back in Washington, you still with us? Oh, Bill, you're still with us, right?
I am, Brian.
What word are you hearing on when the president's going to come forward?
We were just told that the president will have something to say down in Florida any minute. He is in Florida. We believe that his education event, which was scheduled for this morning, has been canceled. But the White House is saying that the president will have something to say. Then he'll leave Florida and come right back to Washington, Brian.
Bill, had his people, Condi Rice, Colin Powell, his security people, his foreign affairs people, ever discussed this kind of a scenario?
I don't know for certain, but I would be very surprised if they had not talked about it. This kind of what-if disaster planning is a staple in Washington, and particularly at senior levels. And I think that these sorts of things are gamed, examined, and talked about, and everyone hopes they will never happen.
Yeah, unfortunately, in this case, it would seem to have gone against hopes. Again, let's bring everyone up to speed. As best we can tell, wow, we just had another view of the second plane going in. As best we can tell, at 8:45 this morning, an aircraft plowed into the uppermost levels of one of the Twin Towers. An eyewitness has defined that plane, has told us that plane was a 737, but that is unconfirmed. And then moments later, 18 minutes later, a second aircraft, the one you saw just there, plowed into the other Twin Tower at a lower level. That plane, we have no idea of its size. We have no idea if these were intentional acts. We have no idea if these are private planes or commercial aircraft. We have an unconfirmed report from the Associated Press that the FBI was investigating reports of a plane hijacking shortly before the crash into the World Trade Center. Let's go to Florida. President Bush has a statement.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a difficult moment for America. I unfortunately will be going back to Washington after my remarks. Secretary Rod Page and Lieutenant Governor will take the podium and discuss education. I do want to thank the folks here at Booker Elementary School for their hospitality. Today we've had a national tragedy. Two airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country. I have spoken to the Vice President, to the Governor of New York, to the Director of the FBI, and have ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families, and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act. Terrorism against our nation will not stand. And now, if you join me in a moment of silence. May God bless the victims, their families, and America. Thank you very much.
We've been watching President Bush, who was down in Florida for what was supposed to be an educational event. Instead, he is racing back to Washington as we speak. The president making a very brief statement in Sarasota, calling it an apparent terrorist attack on our nation. Again, that is unconfirmed, and promising the full resources of the federal government to not only help the victims but also to investigate. And before asking people to pray with him, the president saying that this act will not stand. As he was speaking, we got a report from Reuters that a plane was hijacked from Boston. A plane out of Boston was hijacked. But again, that is unconfirmed. We had a report earlier from the Associated Press that there had been a hijacking. Now Reuters is reporting that a plane out of Boston was hijacked. an American Airlines aircraft. We